Hello and welcome back. I caught Carl drinking. Good job. To the Ecuador Insider podcast. Jesse, Carl, Brandon is traveling. He will be hanging out with some family back home in the States for a bit. So we'll be flying solo this week. We may bring the ladies on the pod next week. So put in the comments if you'd like to see that. October 13th is our next Vilcabamba Lifestyle Retreat. This will be our 6th Vilcabamba Lifestyle Retreat. A retreat designed to give you the full flavor of what life is like, a tangible, hands-on feel, first-hand feel of what life is like here in Vilcabamba, Ecuador, and surrounding areas. It's really a action-packed 9-day retreat. Gives you not only the first-hand experience of every aspect of life here, but also an extraordinary amount of expert information, presentations, Q&As, panels on everything you would be interested in if you're considering life here in and around the valley. So link below, sign up for that. We'd love to see you down here.
That's right. Yeah, so today we're celebrating my 12th year arrival in Ecuador.
Today. I did not know that.
Yes, August 3rd, I arrived in 2011 in Ecuador. So 12 years today. It feels good. So between the two of us, you've got 10 years now, 12 here. Got Brandon with a couple of years under his belt. We got plenty of experience. We've lived here for a long time, and we really want to show people the lifestyle that you're able to have here. All the best restaurants, all the activities that you can do. There's so many things to do here. Beautiful nature to explore, meet the community, and yeah, we think that, I love this place. Like, I was just with clients this morning. I was just telling them, they were asking me, like, you like living here? I said, I don't think I could live anywhere else at this point. This place is so great, and wherever I go somewhere else, I always see how, I always miss Vilcabamba. I always miss this lifestyle and this area where we live, so.
Yeah. No, and the retreats have been a lot of fun. Carl is the main sort of driving force behind the retreats, so you'll get to see a lot of him, but also spend time with myself, Brandon, other members of the team. So it's a great time. October 13th, we'd love to see you down here. So in that vein of, sort of sharing this lifestyle and place with the world, which of course is most of a portion of the goal of this channel, we wanted to do a show today on the top 10 reasons why expats leave Ecuador. And I think giving that sort of, between us, we've got just you and I have 22 years here. It's funny too, because my arrival date was July 31.
Oh wow, okay.
2013.
Amazing.
So my 10-year anniversary was a few days ago. So we're not, on this channel, like, we're not at all trying to do the sunshine and roses or rainbow and roses or whatever it is, perspective on things, right? We happen to love it here, but we also been here long enough to see a lot of people come and go, to see, everyone has their own sort of slant and their own sort of experience in life. And, it's easy to, at least for me, I feel like it's pretty easy to track the type of people and the type of sort of attitudes and things and things, priorities, things people care about that are going to make people either love it here or not.
Yeah.
And I think to some degree, Vilcabamba and Ecuador in general can be a bit of a polarizing place. Like, you'll have people who come to Vilcabamba and fall in love with it like in 8 seconds. I'm really not exaggerating. Like a guy told me yesterday, and this happens a lot, like, I pulled into the valley and I knew, right? Like, you that's pretty common. You'll also have folks that come into town and are like, oh, get me out of here, right? And everything in between, but it can be fairly polarizing, and there are a lot of differences. So we're going to talk about kind of some of those differences today, how we relate to those, how we've seen other people relate to those, what kind of makes people potentially successful here, or people who could potentially enjoy life here and not. So let's jump right into it. Number one, I don't know, should we start with number 10 or number 1? Are they in order, is the first question.
Somewhat.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
They're in perhaps in order or not. Let's just go with number 1. Family reasons. Need to be closer to family or care for aging parents or relatives.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say for us, that was one of the main reasons why we would consider not living here. Like, I would put that number 1. For me and my wife, it's really mostly my wife, to be honest. But, being close to family, we're here. We're a couple with 2 children. Sometimes, especially for the kids, right? We'd like them to be around their grandparents. We'd like them to be around, their aunts and aunties and all that, uncles, right? So, and then as you mentioned, some people have family back home that maybe are having some medical issues and things like this that you'd want to be closer to. Sometimes I wish my whole family would want to move here. Actually, they are all planning, believe it or not.
Really?
Both my parents. My mom probably would spend 6 months here, 6 months in Canada. My dad would like to move here one day. Brothers and sisters, the
that's
same.
awesome.
So
That is
down the
awesome.
line, yeah, I've been, promoting the place enough, and they visited me, almost every year since I've been here. They are planning to move here down the line. So, but I could understand why people would want to do that. And like I said previously, now my dad comes here every winter. My mom comes to visit at least once a year. My in-laws have been here almost every year also. My brother and sister have visited me. So it's a great place to go for a vacation if your family's not necessarily decided to move here, but potentially they would come here for a vacation, once a year. I think that's a great way to make it happen.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good one for the list for sure. Definitely, definitely something you're gonna have to deal with.
Right.
If you're gonna move to a foreign, to another country, you're gonna be further away from your family. There are lots of people who I've seen go back, just to be close, like you said, just to be closer to either aging parents or sick family members or grandkids,
Right.
or things like that. So you definitely do see that, and yeah, you kind of just have to make peace with that. I feel the same way. Like, I wish there's family members I would love that if they were down here, and we go back and we visit, and some of them come down here and visit. But yeah, there's a little bit of pain there, right? There's a little bit of sadness around the distance. So I think that's something that most people deal with down here now. For me, right, that doesn't come anywhere close to tipping the scales of the equation, just because of how many things I love about my life here.
Yeah.
But it is something that we all have to deal with, and I think, because everybody down here is kind of without their crew, so to speak, right?
Yep.
Of the people where they came from, the bonds that get built here kind of, I don't know if I want to say replace that, because you're not going to replace, your family, of course, but it's sort of, we do kind of act as each other's,
Of course.
families down here, and helping out in times of needs and being there for, mental, physical, emotional support and all those kinds of things, and helping out when there's crisis. And so, it's really a very strong community in that way, probably much stronger than any that I've seen back home, and maybe partially for that reason. I don't know.
Yeah. Go, completely agreed. That was the next point I wanted to make. Yeah, we have friends here that have become like family, right? Of course, you cannot replace family, as you're saying, but because of the same reasons you've just mentioned, you do have very strong bonds that are being made, and our kids have friends. They're born here, they grow up together like best friends, and it feels like family. So that's very special, actually.
Number 2, job opportunities, lack of suitable career prospects, or changes in job circumstances. Yeah, I agree, and that's sort of a double-sided coin, right? Because if you've got foreign income and you're spending it here, you're living well.
Very well.
If that foreign income goes away, this is a place that's harder to get a job to support yourself than it would be back home. And so that's, I guess, probably what you were referring to
Exactly.
here. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So there are a lot of retirees that come here that have a pension. You could live very comfortably here with just a minimum pension that you would get in U.S., Canada, and most of the Western countries. If you're coming here to work and find a job and work, that could be challenging. That was challenging for me. I would say that would also be one of the main reasons why we have considered going back to Canada, was for job opportunities. Now, there are definitely some opportunities. You have to be a little more creative. You have to think outside the box. You kind of have to become an entrepreneur, or an investor, moving down here to be able to make an income, because Ecuadorians are very hard worker and they're willing to work for very little. So it's hard to compete with them, at least for manual labor and things that up north you would get paid a good wage to do. Here it's like everybody knows how to do this, and they don't get paid very, very much to do these types of work. So yeah, but there are definitely lots of opportunities to invest, to think outside the box, to create something that's not already being done here.
Yep.
But it's more than just getting a job and getting a paycheck. It requires more entrepreneurial spirit, for sure.
I agreed. And that's probably, in general, the people that are going to thrive, I think, in a place like this are going to be, in general, folks that are a little more creative, a little more, go with the flow, a little more willing to adapt and those kinds of things. And to your point, and I agree completely, yeah, coming here looking for a job, probably not a great idea. Coming here with an entrepreneurial idea is fantastic, because there's much more opportunity here than there is back home, just because the economy here is probably something, and this would not be true in Guayaquil or Quito, but outside of really those couple of markets, the economy here is probably on par with the U.S. economy in the 1940s, 50s, maybe before that, earlier than that even. So there's just a lot of opportunity and a lot, so yeah, if you're creative, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an investor, this is a wonderful place to be. But yeah, the job market is soft.
Right, exactly. No, and also the red tape, right? There's so much less of that here. Someone could literally open a restaurant tomorrow in town. Rent a place and just open a restaurant or start a small business. Whereas in Canada and the U.S., that requires a lot of permitting, a lot of inspections. You need to have some qualifications. It's even hard to find a place to rent to be able to do this in most areas. So there's a lot of small businesses, home businesses, people that make products and things at home,
cottage
sell
industries
them,
of all kinds.
That you can sell at the organic market, or there are a lot of stores in town who are willing to resell some of the things that other people make. So those types of things are definitely available, and there's lots of potential, lots of opportunities, and it continues to grow since I've been here.
Yeah, it's a much freer market in many ways, and a much more open economy in many ways, which creates creative opportunity, and there's less there's 98%, it's probably not an exaggeration, less competition here for anything you're trying to do, both competition in terms of amount of capital, but also competition in terms of the idea itself, the industry, whatever you're doing itself. You very well may have an idea where you're the only player here, which you wouldn't have back home.
Yeah, and this is a silly example, and I probably shouldn't say it because then someone is going to start doing it, but I was making these chocolate balls, chocolate truffles back in the days. We lived on that income for many years here, right? That was my main thing. It was a small business. I made a variety of things, but the chocolate balls I made were extremely popular, and I would sell hundreds a week, right? Sometimes like thousands a month. And I stopped doing it. I basically just stopped doing it, and went on to different ventures. And nobody else has picked up the idea, even after all these years, right? So, anyways, now someone probably is going to start doing it. But it's good. There's different things like this that other people haven't thought of, or if you're an expert at something, there's definitely some opportunities for a variety of things.
Yeah, but I think for folks who don't want to be creative in those ways, who aren't entrepreneurs, who just come here looking for a job, sure, that could be a reason to go home. Yep. It could be harder to earn a living in those ways. So, yes. I think it's a good point. Okay, what are we at? 3, cultural differences. Struggling to adapt to local culture and customs. I don't know, man. That might be number 1.
Yeah.
That might be number 1. But, yeah, I mean, there's no way to, on a video, I've been making videos about this stuff for, 9 years or something. There's no way on a video to really, you have to experience it.
Right.
There's no way to explain to someone how different some of that stuff is. Mm-hmm. It took me literally 2 or 3 years to get used to the cultural differences. It was a little different for me. I wasn't living in Vilcabamba, where it's a much softer landing. And I was starting a business, which brings in a whole nother element of the cultural stuff and all of that. But regardless, it's a different place. And so I do think people go home over frustrations, basically because they don't understand the culture, don't know how to interact with it successfully, and therefore have negative experiences, and therefore get frustrated and pack up and leave.
Yeah.
So I do think that's a good one for the list. We have done videos on what those cultural differences are.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, for me, I'm a really big fan of the culture. It has its underbelly, It has the things that you're like you have to just kind of deal with as that it's part of the culture, but it's such a family-based, family-oriented, human culture. Where people are people, they care about one another. They're very present. They live in the moment. They take care of one another. They look out for one another. It's that aspect of the culture here is so strong that for me, the nuisances, the sort of inconveniences of some of the aspects of the culture, I'm more than happy to live with in return for just sort of kind-hearted people.
Yep, completely agreed. This morning I went out with a client and he was like, "People are so nice here," and he said it like 3 or 4 times, right? And he's like, how did he say it? It was so funny. He's like, I'm gonna have to start getting used to it.
right.
Getting used to like people saying hi and people being nice and friendly, right? Yeah.
Yep. All right. Number 5, health concerns, access to specific healthcare needs or better medical facilities in their home country.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if someone has a very serious illness and they require, an unusual treatment or a treatment that requires high level of care, they might not have it available here, or potentially not here in this region. Maybe you'd have to go to Quito or some of the main cities. I've heard of people moving, or maybe the health insurance doesn't cover it here. I don't know. I've just heard of people moving back for health reasons in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, my observations on that is that that's more of a comfort thing than an access thing. Yeah, it's definitely true. Like if you're gonna have open heart surgery, for example, like some very complicated, surgery, you're probably not doing that in Loja, which is 45 minutes away. It's the city in this area. Some of that goes on in Cuenca, so there's very good medical care in Cuenca. But then for the most complicated stuff, you might be in Quito or Guayaquil, which is either a very long drive or a flight, a very short flight away. The care here, though, is very, very good. And if you look at a lot of the rankings, they have Ecuador way ahead of the U.S., for example, on healthcare rankings. Ecuador does have a public healthcare system, which isn't fantastic, but the private care is so inexpensive, very professional, and it sort of goes back to that cultural stuff. Like people care, so you can go see, at least in this region, you can go see a doctor for $30 or $40. Often the follow-up is free, and the doctor cares, and they're not beholden to insurance companies because most people don't have it, and they're not beholden to all of the legal parameters of their profession because they're not worried about getting sued all the time, and they don't have all that overhead. So it's a much simpler, much more human, much more direct kind of provider to consumer experience. And the medical care they do, to my knowledge, they have just about everything available. Again, not in the smaller markets. So that would be Cuenca, Quito, Guayaquil, that you'd be doing the most complicated stuff. But to your point, I've definitely heard of people going home for those reasons. And I think for me, that's just a comfort thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you can go back to where people speak your language and you understand the system, and and you, like you said, maybe you have insurance that covers it or whatever where you're from, and so I can understand that. But I think I think that almost might fall under the culture, the going home for the culture category to some degree. But
I see. Yeah, well, it's worth mentioning though that a lot of people come here that are not so healthy, that have some health issues, and they actually heal them naturally, or their health gets a lot better because of the lifestyle, because of the fresh, pure air. There really isn't much contamination here because there's a lot of organic food available, because there's pure, clean water available for free all year round. The weather is really comfortable for the body, right? You feel like going out exercising. You feel like, so the lifestyle has shown to have healed some people's illnesses, actually, and some people's health get a lot better. And that's one of the reasons why people move here, actually, is for health reasons, to actually improve their health through diet and lifestyle, of course.
Well, and just anecdotally, I've seen
Mm-hmm.
that work
Yeah.
over the years for client after client after client who come and just get healthier
Yeah.
and comment on it. But you can also just see when you see them, they just look better as well.
Yeah.
Everybody walks everywhere here. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, the local people are very healthy overall
Yeah.
into their old age.
Yeah.
And then, you might want to mention some of the alternative health practitioners. The people that move back for health reasons, they're probably not the types that would go to alternative health
Perhaps,
practitioners.
yeah.
It might be more
Yeah, that's probably true.
the medical system.
Yeah, I mean, we have some of the best, most accomplished natural health practitioners in the world happen to make their home in this valley. So it is a place where you can get really, truly high-level care in alternative medicine for a fraction of what it costs back home. So specifically in this valley is really amazing for that. If you've got, if you're trying to heal naturally, this is a great place for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 6, economic factors, financial difficulties, or unexpected changes in the cost of living.
Well, I don't think there's that much changes in the cost of living here, but yeah, I think some people will just leave because they have some unforeseen economical challenge. Maybe they're not receiving their pension anymore, or they used to get an income, they don't receive it anymore. That type of things. I know that's a reason why some people will leave here. But the cost of living here is extremely low. It's like a quarter or a fifth maybe of
Yeah.
like that would be pretty accurate.
Yeah.
You would say.
Yeah, I used to say just about that. I'd say, like 25%
Yeah.
of things cost here about 25% of what they cost back home in general, rule of thumb.
Yeah. So yeah, if you do the math, look at how much you're making or how much you have over there available, and what it would cost you here. People come here with a pension, for example, and live a very, very comfortable, simple life very comfortable life where not only you can find a beautiful home to live, but you can even have a gardener and a cleaning lady and people that take care of you, and even cook for you, eat at some of the best restaurants 3 times a day. Like, you could live that kind of lifestyle here with a basic pension, basically. So
Yeah, I mean, the most expensive restaurant in Vilcabamba, which we're all like, when we pay the bill, you're spending maybe like $8 to $15 for an entree, and this is pricey. This is like, we can't believe how much we're spending, and that's so, just to give an example. And I just want to mention one other thing too. That help you mentioned, that's obviously very inexpensive here because labor is very cheap, is inexpensive here. But if you have someone that comes to your house, even if they come every day, that helps you cook and clean, and if you've got kids that help with the kids or whatever you want them to do, and if you've got someone come in to landscape or garden or things like that, not only are those people readily available, they're in the community people who are sweet and kind and happy to have the work, and you don't have to worry about them stealing, and there's no animosity, there's no judgment. It's a very like nice reciprocal sort of thing. It's just part of the culture here. The wealthy, middle upper class to upper class Ecuadorians all have people pretty much who are helping in some capacity with some stuff. It's just still kind of part of the culture here, and nobody is feeling resentful because that's their role at all.
For sure. Yeah, and actually, kind of on a side note, like us as expats here, moving here, we kind of fall under the category of the middle to upper class Lojanos in a way. Some people have a pension, they don't necessarily work, but just like economically, they're somewhat similar to us in the sense that they have employees, they have cleaning ladies and gardeners and nannies and things like this. They can afford it, and so the local people here, it's not that it's a new thing for them to do these types of work for expats. They would already be doing it for the local Lojanos, middle to upper class Lojanos. Because I'm saying this because I remember anecdotally when I first came here 12 years ago, we moved to San Joaquin, the gated community. We were renting. I and my girlfriend at the time, we were renting this little house, right? And we'd wake up in the morning and walk in the garden. There would be like workers and gardeners, and there was all these Ecuadorian men that were working hard, and I always felt awkward and uncomfortable. Like I'm over here, I'm 20 years old, like I'm completely capable of working, but there's somebody doing all the work, and it's something I had to get used to here, and they weren't like, it's not like they were judging us, oh, these lazy gringos, right? It's like, well, they're lucky to be able to afford to hire us, but we're happy to get the work. So, anyways, it's one of those things that's great to have here.
Yeah, it really is a sort of added luxury to life here. You don't have to be, even close to wealthy to be able to have that kind of help, which is nice.
Right. And I say this to clients sometimes because they'll buy property and be like, well, I'm gonna have to work hard to maintain it and do all of the gardening,
which is fun
prune
too.
the trees, and it's like I'm getting older, and I have to tell people, you could hire someone to do it for you for very little. You might be able to use your time for something else that you actually really want to do, right?
Yep. Number 7, safety and security. Concerns about crime rates or personal safety in the region they live in or lived in for folks leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for me, I have seen the only people I can think of that actually left, that I know personally, that actually left for safety or security reasons were 2 people I can think of that were actually the victim of a crime.
Yeah.
I can't actually think of anybody else.
Yeah, you're right.
Leaving, because they heard of stuff or they were worried or they were concerned. I think that's because in general this place is, very, very safe. But I have seen people, I have seen a couple of people leave who actually, were the victim of a crime.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's expats all over Ecuador. We visit Guayaquil sometimes. We have some friends there. We know expats that live in Guayaquil.
Do you really?
Yeah, for sure.
No, there is a lot of expats in Guayaquil. I can't imagine why. But
and Guayaquil, the coast, is known as a more unsafe region.
Well,
and
particularly Guayaquil too.
Right,
Yeah.
Guayaquil, exactly, Guayaquil. So yeah, it's something that people are worried about. I could see someone wanting to move because they don't feel safe where they live, right? Vilcabamba, not the case. It really isn't, right? There of course there is crime here, but it's so uncommon. And overall, we feel very safe. I've always felt very safe in the 12 years I've lived here. So, but yeah, if someone's a victim of a crime, of course, they might want to move them. Make them want to move.
I think that might be sort of more of a reason, like, that people don't come in the first place.
Sure.
Is they hear about stuff, and I would just, I would say this first of all: this place is not for everyone. Again, it's a place that is very different, probably, than what you're used to if you're watching this from sort of the quote-unquote Western world. And so there's a lot of reasons not to come, if this is not going to be somewhere where you can feel good and be happy and thrive. But if safety and security is your concern because you're in these Facebook forums or you're reading headlines, this stuff is really over the top sensationalized. And there's a lot of just kind of fear mongers that I think they kind of just don't have anything better to do, and they spend their time on the internet scaring people. I would definitely recommend you to actually come and check it out and talk to people who live here and see if it's actually dangerous or scary at all. Because I've seen. I think perception versus reality on that can be very, very different. And I think that does keep a lot of people away, which is okay too, because it's not for everybody. But I would just encourage you to find out for yourself versus, trusting kind of some of the hyperbolic stuff that I've come across. I mean, we've had some questions that I've noticed come into the company over the last months that just kind of illustrate how far people's perceptions are from reality. Asking, hey, is it safe to visit in August or something, right? Hey, is it safe to drive from Cuenca to Loja? Is it safe? And guys, I'm not, if you have those kinds of questions because you haven't been here before, of course it's normal. You haven't experienced it. That's the point, right? So you might, but the reality on those things here is that those questions are comical. For anyone who's experienced, who's been here, those are comical questions because of those wouldn't even exist in our mind as something to even think about, whether it's safe to visit or safe to drive, or overall this place is, it's a very safe country. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, I want to add something else too. believe it or not, there are a lot of people who move here for safety and security reasons, because they believe and they think and they decide that it's safer here than where they're from, right? There's a lot of U.S. cities that have high rates of crime, but also food security, good weather all year round,
water security,
various things like that. So there's actually quite a few people that come here because they think that this is a safer place for their family and their loved ones than where they're from.
I mean, I would say most people
Yeah.
come, maybe not directly like security in terms of like being robbed or something, or like being the victim of a crime, but overall life security. Yeah, I think that's probably high on most people's list of why they come here. All right, number 8, education options, seeking better educational opportunities for themselves or their children. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, you have a teenage daughter, so you've made that decision. I think I've seen some families here when they had little kids, they lived here for a while, and then when their children were teenage years, maybe college years, they decided to move because they wanted them to have, the opportunities for education, go to a good university or a good college and whatnot.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a main reason. Ecuadorians will even send their kids to school abroad, to the U.S. and that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I've seen that as well. I think the sort of key on that is it's like, if it's very important to you to have very standardized high-end education, you're going to have more options in other places in the world. There's still some good ones here, but like in this region, for example, I don't think there's a single truly high-end school that you could send your kids to who would be getting like a really high-end formal education. So yes, if that's important to you, there's some good options in Cuenca, there's some good options in some of the other larger cities. But yeah, if the formal education being really, really good is important to you, there's going to be higher end options available to you elsewhere. There's still some pretty good options here, but a lot of people here homeschool their kids. A lot of people are a little bit, more into a little bit more self-directed, a little bit more less formal types of education, and a little bit more sort of hands-on types of education. All the kids here are riding horses and taking hikes and playing soccer and doing all kinds of activities and starting little businesses and running camps, and kids here do stuff, and then they also tend to supplement that with either online learning or homeschooling or textbooks or whatever, but tends to be a little bit less, the expat community tends to be a little bit less interested in the formal side.
Yep.
All right, number 9, social isolation. You need a hug, bro. Feeling disconnected from the expat community or finding it hard to make local friends. That's interesting.
I don't think it happens a lot here, unless there might be some like odd people who are kind of socially awkward.
I mean, we're all a little odd here. We're all a little odd here.
Yeah, if you're very shy and timid, and maybe Vilcabamba could be overwhelming, right? Because people will talk to you and want to be friends with you.
Right.
So, but I think maybe for other regions of Ecuador that'd be the case. Like I know some people who've moved to some remote jungle place or something that, right?
True.
And they didn't feel like there were a lot of community there, and then they moved to Vilcabamba.
Right.
But that could be another factor for, I don't know what.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least so we'd have to talk about this differently by region, right? So we're in Vilcabamba, we're in this region. I think other regions are different. Every community is different, but like in this region, if you're kind of like the most standard, I'll just say American, right? You're like the cookie cutter, you want everything the way you're used to it. You believe all the sort of rhetoric and all the sort of, all the ethoses and all the beliefs that, we sort of grew up with as Americans, and you're very standard in your thinking and all your stuff. Yeah, this is going to be a weird place for you. Like,
right.
Because people here tend to be a little bit more alternative in their views, a little bit more free in their thinking. There's all kinds of people here and all kinds of belief systems, like for real. It's not culty in any way. Like there is, You know, I've got friends that have the most diverse collection of beliefs. It's actually kind of wild, like how
It is a bit
how
wild.
different people's belief systems can be. But there's a common thread of they tend to be not mainstream.
Right.
They tend to be not, you know, the 6 o'clock news, you know, either red or blue, you know, kind of views. And so, if that's gonna drive you crazy,
Yeah.
or if that's gonna make you feel isolated, like I could see that happening. Yeah.
I think we got a comment from somebody on one of our latest video.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Someone that lived here for a while, and they were like, I go to restaurants and I hear all the conspiracy theories and everyone, you know.
No, that's interesting, right? That was on our conspiracy theory episode
Video, right,
from
episode,
years
right.
ago, and which we should do another one of those. But
We should.
right, he was saying I don't know who it is, but
Yeah.
he was saying that he had been here I think 7 years or 9 years, and while he loves it, he can't believe how weird all the conversations are and stuff like that. So yeah, like, you know,
It's true.
it's true.
I mean, depends what you want to call weird.
Yeah. And, you know, finding it hard to make local friends, to me that goes back to the cultural stuff. So, like, yeah, it's really easy here to make local friends, and you gotta know how to go about it. It's like both, right? So anyhow, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Well, I was going to say the language barrier could be a big
Could
one.
be a big one, yeah.
For making friends. We do recommend learning Spanish to some extent, which you will, just by living here. You have no choice. But I feel very blessed to be able to speak good Spanish, to actually have some very, very good Ecuadorian friends, you know, who I can really relate to, and I can really go deep in a conversation with. That's special deal.
And I'm realizing, did I
That was
skip
one-
number
yes.
4?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, I skipped number 4. I apologize, because we need
Yeah.
to talk about that
Sure.
one. Number 4 is language barriers, difficulty in fully integrating and communicating due to language challenges. That's probably a big one for people.
Yep.
Like, you got to learn a new language over time to really enjoy things here. Now, there's a caveat to that. Like, I know a lot of people, we have a lot of friends, mutual friends, guys we know, people we know in the community, who have lived here a long time and still don't speak Spanish and love it here.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
so there's that too. But Vilcabam's a little unique that way because there are a lot of English speakers. But yeah, in general, you know, it's good to learn the language, and if you don't, you're limiting your life a little bit. And I could see that causing some discomfort.
For sure. And not that we're trying to gentrify the area, but I just wanted to mention that a lot of local people see the benefit in learning English as well. So, you know, here in Vilcabamba, the younger generation, they do learn English, and a lot of the friends we have, you know, professionals in Loja and whatnot, they do speak English somewhat.
Yeah, or some English.
So there's some of that as well.
Well, I mean, every Ecuadorian, most people in the world, really, they get some amount of English in school.
Right.
And then they either continue or they don't with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. I mean, learning the language, right, it goes back to personality type, right? So if being in awkward situations because you're trying to communicate and you can't understand each other makes you miserable and uncomfortable, like, you're going to be in a bunch of those. Right. If you can roll with that and just have fun with it, because it's hilarious, right? You're saying words wrong, they don't understand. You're saying words that mean other things, they don't understand. Yeah. You know, you're pointing, you're doing the whole sign, you know, sort of sign language, you know, fake sign language thing. And if you can have fun with that, they'll have fun with you with it.
Sure.
No problem. Like, no one's judging you, no one's upset that you don't speak the language. In fact, they want to use their English. Like, I have people, you know, my Spanish is very good, and I have people who their English is not very good, but they're like, it's speaking to me in English. Like, it's important to them to speak to me in English. I'm speaking to them back in Spanish because I don't really understand them that well. Right. And it'd be easier to have the conversations. Exactly. But like, people are very happy to do that with you. So yeah, if you can roll with that and have fun with it, you'll enjoy it. If not, if it's gonna make you really uncomfortable, then yeah, maybe not. You know, maybe don't take that on. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, number 10. Political instability, unrest, or changes in the political climate affecting their sense of security and stability.
That's your topic, Jesse.
That's my topic? What was it? Political instability.
Just political, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a wave of folks that left it's starting more or less right when I got here.
Yeah.
So I got here in end of July 2013, and then a lot of folks left. Maybe it had started before I got here. I don't know, but from then for the next year or two, but really kind of in that sort of year and a half, maybe year and a half, between summer 2013 and sort of the end of 14, a lot of folks left, and I think, that the political situation in the country at that time was scaring people. That was sort of the last years of Rafael Correa, who's a controversial figure here, did a lot of good, did a lot of things that people really don't like. And, towards the end of his time in office, a lot of people left for those reasons. So I have seen that. I can't say I've seen people leaving otherwise.
Yeah,
That's kind of the one time that I saw that happening. I think it could happen again, potentially, depending on where politics go. And I think people, to some degree, make those decisions anywhere in the world to sort of live. I think a lot of people moved to like Texas and Florida recently because for political reasons, basically, and perhaps vice versa. I don't really know, but I remember seeing some headlines like that. So, I think people do that. This is a place that has political unrest from time to time, right? We've talked about this a lot, but there's national strikes, there's paros, there's times when they close the road and they're trying to get rid of presidents, and we just had the president, issue a death cross and dissolve the Congress. Like you have that kind of stuff here, but I haven't seen people so much leave for those reasons.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. And actually, what I found, the more we talk about this topic, I realize how little we are affected by local politics here. How, these things happen, death cross and this, and it doesn't change the life here. It doesn't change much, really. Even when there was change in presidency, like maybe if you're conducting business, there could be some changes in the laws and stuff like that. Yeah. But for the for the day-to-day people who just want to live a peaceful life and enjoy the weather and be healthy, the political things don't really affect us. I mean, there was one time where the paro came all the way to close to Vilcabamba, and they blocked the road for a day or two or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Very, very, and that's
there was a couple of times where like you couldn't get to Cuenca.
Yeah.
Because they had the road blocked.
Right. But it affects us minimally.
Yeah.
I would say down here. Probably in the cities, people feel more affected because there's more people. But
Cuenca. I heard in Cuenca they were like, not for real, like running out of food, but like kind of like you were going to stores and you couldn't find stuff, and during the last paro.
Yeah. And then there was one Ecuadorian person that I can remember who chose to move to the U.S. because of the political change.
Yeah, I think there is some. Because of the political change. Yeah,
like when Correa was reelected or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, we're gonna stay in the States during this time because they were really anti the type of political movement, socialism, I guess, or.
Yeah, actually, I have seen some more of that than I've seen really for expats. Like, yeah, I've definitely seen Ecuadorians make life decisions based on some of that stuff. Close businesses, move assets around. So I have seen more of that because when the political winds shift here, they're big shifts. You can go from a free market guy to a socialist or vice versa overnight, and that's going to change what you're doing in business and with your assets and sort of estate planning and stuff like that. Right. Ecuadorians do definitely make decisions along those terms to some degree, I've seen. So. All right, guys. Hey, if you have questions, if you have other stuff you'd like us to cover, please put them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, we'd love that you put a like on the video. We're watching a beautiful bird land on the roof up there. Yeah. Please put a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, share on your social networks, and if you'd like to reach out to us, we'd love to hear from you. All of our info is below, our websites, emails, etc. Are we doing taglines today? I don't know.
We hope to see you here one day.
But see, I don't know Brandon's. It's something about.
Let's edit that out.
No, we're keeping it in. This is staying in.
We hope to see you here one day, and until then,
see you next time.